Good evening. I'm Joanne Manita, 203 South Howard. And I wanted to say, whereas Moscow is a city of trees, and the trees are an important part of our pollination system, and whereas we suddenly discovered we're going to have 25 trees trimmed this week due to the ITD granting a permit to ExxonMobil for over legal permits, I had some questions, and they're not only my questions, there are other people in the audience and people who couldn't be here tonight who were wondering about the answers to these. All we know is what we read in the paper, as Will Rogers said. So who will be hired to do the tree trimming? Who will pay for the tree trimming? Exactly which trees will be trimmed? I guess the city must know that by now. Have the property owners whose trees are on their land, have they been notified about the trees being trimmed? Will the trees be trimmed evenly or just cut back on the traffic side? And I was advised by Gary Riedner that this is covered in the tree ordinance, so I took a look at that, and it requires a clearance of 12 feet vertical. And I assume that because the loads are going to be as high as 15 feet, that the trees will be trimmed higher than 12 vertical. So it's not exactly what's covered in our ordinance. So I was hoping that the city could provide information for the community as to how this is all going to work, because 1 week is a pretty short span. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Are there any answers at the ready for some of those questions? And then other ones I would ask that we, because of the shortness of duration, that we put some information out for the news media and on the city's website. But Gary, I know we have some of the answers to the particulars of hiring and such.
Yeah, the city has a maintenance agreement with the Idaho Transportation Department for the state highways that move through the city. That allows us to have a lot of input into maintaining those roads, even though they're repaired by ITD, snow removal, things like that. As you know, ITD typically plows their snow to the side, which doesn't work in town typically, because you don't take away your parking spaces. So we maintain the snow plowing within the city. ITD puts in the traffic signals on the state highways. We maintain those traffic signals, so on and so forth. There's also a section of that agreement which was approved by City Council some years ago as far as maintenance of trees. The maintenance of trees is subject to clearance requirements, and I'm not certain, I wasn't aware this was going to come up tonight, but I believe it's 14 feet of clearance. I could be wrong on that on a state highway. The 12 feet is what we require for city streets. And as you can see, sometimes a couple years ago on 6th Street, a moving van was moving down 6th Street and tore down a fairly substantial limb because it was well below the clearance of the trailer. So the process that it goes through, as I emailed Joanne back this morning, and I had hoped that she had talked to Tom Grundon, our city arborist. These are public trees, and if they're within the public right-of-way, even though they may be in front of someone's business or someone's residence, if they're in the public right-of-way, they're public trees and therefore subject to our tree ordinance. In order to remove or to work on a public tree, it has to be done by a certified, licensed tree worker, I guess you'd call it. And we certify those folks. They take a test. And permits for work on public trees, especially these along the state highways, is done pursuant to a permit, and that is managed by Tom Grundon, as I indicated. He's our arborist. Not only is that a title, he's certified an arborist, as is his supervisor, Dwight Curtis. ExxonMobil submitted a preliminary plan probably 3 weeks ago. Came up, went out with Tom, looked at the sites of the trees. Then Tom met with them, told them that, okay, these are some issues we need to deal with. They went back, revised the plan on at least one more occasion, if not two. Tom advised the Tree Commission that a plan had been submitted, and in his opinion that it was appropriate. It isn't going to involve cutting down the whole sides of trees, things like that. So that's being handled at a staff level, and of course, if Tom does not agree with it, then he won't allow the permit to be issued. One of the things that we had talked about early on, the council, the mayor, and staff, was that no tree trimming would be pursued until permits were actually issued by ITD, to prevent just trimming trees for the sake of trimming trees. So those permits, according to the press release by ITD, 2 permits have been issued, and Tom is moving ahead with reviewing that plan. He may have already looked at it and approved it, but that will be, we can give information out, Mayor, that's fine. We can put out on the city's website the process that's been followed, and to show that we're doing the minimum, or should I say, Tom is approving the minimum amount necessary to meet the maintenance agreement.
Okay. I think that would be helpful to the public to know about tree trimming.
Okay.
So if there are additional questions that may come up for Joanne as relates to that height difference, she mentioned 12 feet, you mentioned 14, the loads are 50, some of them are as high as 15 feet, 10 inches, so that'd be good to know too. Are there any others who'd like to speak tonight?
I'm Jack Porter, 725 East E Street. My law office is on Washington Street, and there are 3 very nice maple trees between my window and the traffic flow out there. And I'd like to follow up Joanne's question. Is it possible for me to find out this week if those specific trees are on the list? And it appears to me that there's plenty of room on the east lanes of that particular block for these loads, but so I'd like an opportunity to discuss the matter with Tom if he doesn't see it that way. Would that be possible?
Could we post the plan online? I know that it was floating around there for a while. I know that the Tree Commission hasn't seen the latest plan. I learned that the number changed from 18 to 25 trees by reading the newspaper on Saturday. So if that can be public information, that would probably be helpful to people to be able to see that.
Certainly, and if you'd like to get a hold of Tom Grundon, call the city's Parks and Recreation Department. You can get a hold of Dwight Curtis at 883-7087, and he will find Tom for you.
All right, thank you.